A former mayor of the town of Normal has passed away. Kent Karraker was in his 80s. WGLT's Charlie Schlenker has this appreciation of Karraker.
Kent Karraker grew up in southern Illinois and became an executive at the Illinois Farm Bureau. He was elected to the town council in 1983 and was elected mayor 10 years later. Karraker was mayor for a decade and stepped down in 2003 during his third term. Current Mayor Chris Coos says Karraker retired to Florida but visited the Twin Cities often.
He had some heart issues, but he said to me, I've decided that I'd rather be called Grandpa than Mayor.
As mayor, current city manager Pam Reese says Karraker set a tone that still influences the culture of town government today.
One of the quotes that has stuck with us and we use regularly is, "We plan our work and we work our plan." That is something that Kent said many, many times.
Karraker also mentored those around him. He was mayor when former city manager Mark Peterson was hired.
He just understood the community very well, and he had good instincts on when to push things forward, when to move a project, and when not.
Karraker asked then businessman Chris Coos to run for council, and Coos succeeded Karraker as mayor.
Kent was a very definite mentor to me. I had a lot of respect for the man and his ability to handle tough situations.
Every leader has a style. Former council member Sonia Reese says Karraker's was inclusive.
Kent was congenial. He was welcoming. He was able to invite people to the table and be comfortable with that.
And his personal warmth and politeness shaped most interactions. Here's Karraker's predecessor as mayor, Paul Harmon.
Kent was full of anecdotes and humor. He had a very quick wit.
Harmon says that was sometimes a mask.
He also had an inner tension that he covered up with his ebullience. He was very, very much worried about doing the right thing and worried about decisions that were being made, but he didn't let it show.
Karraker also liked to get down to business and get things done. Former city manager Mark Peterson says staff used to joke Karraker disliked long meetings.
He ran a very efficient council meeting. He would say, the best meeting is a short meeting, and would sometimes get a little frustrated with some of his colleagues when they would get a little too windy.
Former council member Sonia Reese characterizes the desire to cut to the chase as more than simple efficiency, a sign of strategic thinking.
I think he was always focused on what are the most important things that the town should be dealing with, and not spend too much time on the trivials.
Karraker's inclusiveness went beyond town boundaries. Former city manager Mark Peterson says Karraker is responsible for thawing Normal's then chilly relationship with the city of Bloomington by forming a close tie to Bloomington Mayor Judy Markowitz.
When she got elected, Kent said, "We are riding together in the Labor Day parade." And he made a big deal. He said, "We're going to be together in the parade because we got to show the community that the two cities are together and the two mayors are together."
Former council member Sonia Reese says Karraker followed up that symbolic statement with regular meetings with Markowitz.
They kept the dialogue going between them on the things that they were working on, so that there were no particular surprises on either side of what were the high issues between them.
With 20 years of town leadership, Karraker had a big influence on the look of today's town. It started from his conservative roots and a desire to have the town become debt-free. Karraker waved the flag for the pay-as-you-go philosophy, which began under Mayor Paul Harmon.
After we issued the bonds for Mitsubishi coming into town and some of the work we had to do there, the town didn't issue any more bonds for the rest of my time and all through Kent. Getting the town to zero debt made possible the investment being made in the uptown area.
And the ability to extinguish debt, Mark Peterson says, is not an easy thing to do.
We were, at least for a good part of his term, we were debt-free, which for a community like Normal, given the growth we were experiencing, given the very aggressive capital project agenda, that was kind of extraordinary at the time.
Karraker's devotion to debt avoidance was not rigid. Current Mayor Chris Coos says Karraker did not let political philosophy blind him to opportunity when Karraker began strategic planning for what became Uptown Renewal.
Kent kind of bristled initially, but he saw that the town was in a unique position to do this. because we were debt-free. He's the one that really started changing the notion of borrowing being a good thing for the community to get projects done.
Karraker began other things, too, that Paul Harmon says later elected officials would complete.
Getting the Children's Museum built in Uptown Normal and getting the groundwork laid for the Amtrak station, City Hall complex, and getting the foundation laid for the advances in Normal.
Mayor Chris Coos says a little-known part of Karraker's time as mayor involves a quiet push to include sexual orientation in protections from discrimination enumerated in the town's Human Relations Ordinance. All the sources for this story, though, say Karraker's emphasis on family shaped his public service and the many quality-of-life improvements he backed. Mark Peterson has one example.
He had a large family. Growing up, he said they were all pool rats, spent a lot of time at Fairview Pool, and one of his, I think, most prideful projects was the renovation of Fairview Pool, and we turned it into Fairview Family Aquatic Center.
At the time he resigned in 2003, Karraker cautioned the community with words that are even more relevant to the wider world today than they were then, not to let those who spread fears through lies lead the way the town is governed. I'm Charlie Schlenker.